get your mind together, then come on across to me. We'll hold hands and then we'll watch the sunrise from the bottom of the sea. But first, are you experienced? Or have you ever been experienced? Well,
are you experienced? Have you tried drugs, or do you know anything about the drug culture that exists in the very midst of Moncton, perhaps even in your own home? There is no longer any question whether there is or isn't a drug problem in the Moncton area. The situation does exist, and over recent months has steadily increased in seriousness. This special program is not intended to be a lecture against drugs, nor is it a defense of drugs. Its purpose is to provide information and a view into the situation which could not easily be obtained by the average adult or even youth. The drugs to which we particularly refer are marijuana, hashish, LSD, MDA, mescaline and speed or methadone, all of which are available in Moncton and, we add, easily obtainable. Drugs remain attractive for the simple reason that they promise something human beings have always been willing to risk the gravest dangers for: wisdom, insight, creative power, the ability to love, and attainment of one's full potential. This explanation has held true in virtually all my talks with users and pushers of drugs in Moncton. A 23-year-old pusher tells how his experimentation with marijuana and hash led to his pushing drugs.
I really liked it, and then I kept doing it, and I pushed a little up there, and I don't know, it's just a thing that you just get into. You meet the right people, and next thing you know, you're a pusher.
Heroin and marijuana are prohibited drugs under the Narcotics Control Act, meaning they can be manufactured and distributed only for approved research purposes. LSD, the slang for which is acid, STP, MDA, barbiturates, cocaine, and amphetamines are termed permissive drugs essential to the practice of medicine, but they are legitimately manufactured and distributed only through ethical drug channels. Returning to my interview with the pusher, what types of drugs have you tried?
Everything but heroin.
Everything but heroin.
Right.
How have they affected your life?
They haven't affected it, really. They've opened my mind. In other words, they've opened the gates, and then, if you want to call it that, I can see people for what they really are, and, either you accept them or you don't accept them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think, personally, myself, I think a person should try acid once in their life. Because a lot of people criticize it before they even know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know I criticized it myself. I was right against drugs, completely, until I tried it.
Now, you say you won't sell LSD unless
exactly.
It's to somebody that you know personally?
Well, still, I won't sell it. No, I won't sell it at all, period.
Why?
Well, I know what it is. I'm saying, in one sense, I'd love to see people try it once, but, I don't want to be responsible in case something would happen to that person,
Mm-hmm.
And they say that something can happen. I know something possibly that it could happen. But, there's that one chance I don't want to take.
Yeah. How often have you seen acid adversely affect people?
None, really.
None.
No.
How about advantageous
In other words,
effects of it?
I know a couple of friends of mine, and not really friends, what I call really, close friends, but they have really, in other words, gone zerky in the head,
Mm-hmm.
They don't care whether they live or die, and they walk around it's, in other words, they're mentally disturbed. But I'm not blaming that totally on acid, that. Their minds could have been weak even before they tried it.
To begin with.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But, I'm not stating that, acid did this, but, it's a possibility that it did.
Mm-hmm. Is there any way, do you think, that a person can prepare themselves to try acid?
Prepare yourself?
Yeah, mentally. Do you think you have
No.
to be in a certain state of mind
No.
to try it?
Not really, no. I don't think so. Acid is a thing like... nobody can really prepare themselves for acid.
Mm-hmm. The Moncton detachment of the RCMP has found that marijuana is used primarily by the 17 to 21 age group. The rise in drug traffic in this subdivision's jurisdiction has become evident through their records. In 1967, there was only one charge of possession laid in the region from Sackville to Camelton. In 1968, there were none. But in 1969, a total of 9 charges were laid under the Narcotics Control Act and 7 under the Food and Drug Act, 4 of which were in Moncton. Only one charge has arisen in Moncton thus far in 1970, this being under the Narcotics Control Act. There is no law covering glue sniffing which is practiced by the under 18 age group. This way of getting high can cause permanent mental impairment. The Moncton subdivision of the RCMP has 3 men working full-time on the drug problem. Now, these men have attended special courses on drugs. The Moncton Police Department has 1 specially trained man who constitutes its drug division. The RCMP figures for identifiable users of marijuana, hash, and LSD have been termed grossly underestimated by both pushers and users in Moncton. The figures were compiled from surveillance and undercover operations. They show 190 identifiable users of marijuana and hash in the entire province of New Brunswick, 52 for LSD and 63 for barbiturates and amphetamines. Glue sniffers identifiable number 135, and all, with the exception of 3, are under the age of 18. Most users and dealers of LSD and MDA are unaware that until August 8th of 1969, LSD was not covered in the drug schedule, and likewise, MDA was not included until December 10th of 1969. Prior to these dates, only the manufacture of these 2 drugs was prohibited. There was no control over possession or trafficking. Canada, an RCMP spokesman said, has an international obligation to enforce the drug laws under a United Nations Convention to which other nations subscribe. It is the duty of the nations and the community's law enforcers to combat the drug situation. But where does the duty of the community itself lie? Is there any way of meeting drugs head-on, and does the average individual have sufficient knowledge on the subject? J. Ramond Tippet, the principal of Harrison Trimble High School in Moncton, says material has been provided for his students and discussions conducted in class, but he adds, they just don't believe us. Of his staff's efforts, Mr. Tippet says,
I'm almost certain that every teacher in this staff is aware of the problem and of doing everything they can to discourage somebody from doing it. But here you have, when you begin to talk, the other day I began to talk about drugs to a class, and after I left, the teacher said, did you know that drug pusher, he had his thumbs in his ears, his fingers in his ears, so he wouldn't hear you.
A Moncton psychiatrist, Dr. Gordon Crandall, has a number of patients who have used those drugs available in the area. In an interview, he described the effects of drugs most often related by users, such as a greater awareness of the senses. Some of these more pleasant effects described by users with whom I spoke were greater intensity of sight, smell, taste, and hearing. Popular opinion is that music was never more beautiful than it is on a so-called trip. Every note and word has intense clarity, and many users contend that particular artists transmit emotions and paint vivid pictures by purposely playing to the drug. Dr. Crandall says,
well, I think you can realize that these effects aren't occurring outside. Nothing changes in the environment when you take a drug. I mean, this is quite clear, right? But what takes place is some stimulation of certain centers of the brain. And obviously, if you're seeing movement or seeing what you feel is greater clarity, or seeing transparencies in front of you, or changing colors, or ability to hear sounds in a different way, all this implies is that a certain part of the brain and deeper structures usually are involved, are being stimulated by this particular drug. However, this brings up the question you referred to, I think, the last time we met. would I classify these drugs as true, quotes, mind expanders, unquotes, and I said, no, definitely not. They are mind expanders in terms of the subjective feeling to the user, but they're not mind expanders in any sense as far as we can see objectively to people looking, discussing, talking to the people who are on the LSD or the various other drugs. Now, one thing I think that the drugs do perhaps bring about in a certain number of cases is that you, for instance, if we were using it in treatment as we were in Detroit in research basically, working with a certain type of patient, we might find that we were able to get down to some of his unconscious thoughts or feelings a little bit more quickly than we could with just a straight interview and the use of no medication. But in terms of the argument that people who use drugs have a much greater understanding and feeling of themselves, I don't buy this, because it's turned out to be exactly the opposite in the interview situation here with these drug users, that they describe a wonderful experience and all of the things that you've just described. But when it comes to sitting down and discussing what they understand about themselves, what they feel towards themselves and others, I just have to say that the chronic users are a dead flop in this area. And what they apparently feel is a much greater understanding of themselves is really nothing of the sort.
But most frequent users of the harder yet non-physically addicting drugs such as LSD and MDA can relate not only good trips, but also bad ones. When a trip turns sour, it's called freaking out. This is what it's like.
Just all of a sudden, like your mind goes blank, like you're really, you're horrified, like you're so scared, and you don't know what's going on. You can't figure out what's going on. You try to figure out what's going on, but you can't. And you keep asking people to talk to you, and you talk to them, but like, you can't really, no one can really help you, in one sense. You just have to sort of like, let yourself come down, in other words, from it. Mm-hmm. You're so scared. You think you're never coming back, really. Yeah. But you do. You mostly all the time, you always come back. Yeah. I figure it this way. I don't think a person freaks while he's tripping. I think it's the after effect. Mm-hmm. You know, like, say, maybe a couple of weeks after, or a month after.
Has it ever affected you this way, a month or a couple of weeks after you will get some flashbacks?
No, not really. No, that's
have you known people that it does happen to?
Right, yeah, I do. They get sort of flashbacks.
Yeah.
And like getting back to that scared part, like it's like acid itself. You can't really explain it. I can't explain it, really, for what really happened. But like, believe me, it's a scared that you're so scared that I can't even explain how scared I was.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, it's really unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, sure. You know, if a person don't freak, like, there isn't anything more beautiful than acid. So, like, your chances are, I figure about 75% chance you don't freak, but the other 25% is there that you will.
And there's no guarantee that you won't, eh?
Right.
How does your supply go once it arrives in the city? Does it go fast?
Yeah.
It's in great demand, then,
right.
Isn't it? And would you tell me, please, what you sell, or what you know, the various drugs are being sold for, approximately?
What are they sold?
Marijuana. How is it sold? In a joint?
No, it's sold by nickel and dime bags.
The same as hash?
Right.
Yeah, and what would a nickel bag go for in a dime bag?
Well, a nickel is called, in other words, it's a $5 piece of hash, and then a dime is $10 piece.
Now, how about an LSD tab?
Well, that varies up and down. Like this summer, they were going for about approximately $10 a tab, but the prices are going really down because, like, acid it used to be scarce, but now it's thousands and thousands of tabs now.
So what's it selling for now? Usually?
Oh, approximately $4 to $5 a tab.
And how much would
a single?
Yeah. How much would a pusher make off of a sale like that?
Oh, sometimes
Let's say
$3 approximately, $2 to $3.
They have out an MDA capsule.
MDA varies. Like MDA, you buy it by the ounce, and you cap it yourself. And You make a profit of approximately $4 to a cat for sure. Almost say $4.50 per cat.
How about STP? Have you had any contact with that?
I've tried STP once in my life, and I'll never try it again.
Why?
Because that will screw you up totally. That's even worse than acid.
And what's it selling for?
Well, STP, as far as STP goes, there's none of that around here. But that's a little more expensive than acid, because if you drop a full tab of STP, you'd probably trip for approximately 3 days on a full tab of STP. It's sort of a 72-hour thing.
How about mescaline? What form does it come in?
Tab, right. Mescaline is something similar to acid. It's a little heavier, though.
And it sells for what?
Almost the same price as acid. Approximately the same price.
Actual physical damage caused by marijuana and hash, or the hallucinogenic drugs, is difficult to pinpoint. One publication says that due to the vivid visions and exhilaration which result from the use of marijuana, users may lose all restraint and act in a manner dangerous to themselves and or others. Users, the publication continues, are accident-prone because of time and space-sense disturbance. Dependence on marijuana or hash, psychic but not physical, leads to antisocial behavior and could be a forerunner to the use of other drugs. Permanence of mental derangement from the use of the hallucinogens is still a moot question. Now this includes LSD, STP, and MDA. But one aspect of LSD is still being studied, and that is whether or not it affects the chromosomes and could result in the birth of a deformed infant. A Moncton practitioner of maternity and gynecology, Dr. J.A. Delaney, says,
I would tend to believe, they tell me that children born from a woman who takes LSD during her pregnancy will almost surely have a deformed child. Now, whether it affects the chromosomes of the individual himself, I'm not sure, but according to the literature, they say yes. But all these are in the stage of experimental stage, and there's a lot of work being done at the present time. But all I can say, as far as LSD is concerned, it's a very dangerous drug. It does cause hallucinations. It does apparently cause these kids a psychosis. It does cause breakdowns, nervous breakdowns eventually, if they keep on using it on some individuals. And to me, we don't need this. There's enough emotional instability at the present time without this.
Dr. Crandall spoke of a hidden danger in LSD. This drug will release the underlying characteristics of the user, characteristics that may lie dormant forever unless amplified by the drug. No one knows, Dr. Crandall said, whether LSD will activate a potential psychosis or mental derangement in any particular user. In other words, the effects of LSD cannot be guaranteed. The need for drug education has been commonly expressed by the professional sector of the community. The New Brunswick Department of Education is attempting to make the teachers and students of the province aware of the drug situation through literature. Several months ago, pamphlets were distributed to the schools. Dr. F.T. Atkinson, the Deputy Minister of Education, said in a telephone interview that information has been provided through which the teachers may make reference to the drug situation.
There is opportunity for teachers to make reference, and we would hope that as a result of the information that has gone out to the teaching body, that they would make reference to it. I mean, we're certain that teachers don't only teach that which is prescribed. We know that teachers take things in their own hands and teach as they see the need. Mm-hmm. And we don't tend, we don't believe that we should be prescriptive in telling the teachers, now you do this and don't do that. We certainly don't take that attitude. We take the attitude that the teacher is an individual and that the teacher should display initiative and I'm sure that the teachers do show the initiative. But we have given teachers information which we hope they will use and pass along as they see fit to their students under their care.
A survey taken last winter among Canadian high school students shows the highest rate of drug use, 14.08%, was in New Brunswick. The survey was carried out by the Family Life Committee of the Canadian Home and School and Parent-Teacher Federation. New Brunswick's high school population is about 27,000. The survey allotted 86 questionnaires to this province. 2 of those polled refused to answer. So the 14.08% figure was derived from the remaining 84 questionnaires. The officer in charge of the Criminal Investigation Branch of the RCMP's New Brunswick headquarters in Fredericton, Inspector H.P. Bourassa, took issue with the report, which claims the province leads the country in the number of students using narcotics. He said he could not accept the accuracy of the report, although it is a well-known fact that narcotics are being abused in New Brunswick as they are in other parts of Canada. A proper assessment of drugs, Inspector Bourassa added, could not be determined by such a survey. At the Home and School Federation's annual meeting recently in Toronto, the Family Life Committee, in a report, said the drug problem cannot be isolated. The report maintained that the issue must be incorporated into the total family life picture. The ability to construct an effective, honest relationship was cited by the committee as one of the major hurdles faced by persons working with the problem. From Toronto, John McKay reports.
Everyone talks about the problem of youth and drugs, but so few people really do anything about it. A rather surprising exception to this rule is the Canadian Home and School and Parent-Teacher Federation. Until now, this organization has been thought of by many as the epitome of the ultra-conservative establishment. However, this week the group's Family Life Committee issued a report in Toronto on the teen drug issue and came up with some surprising opinions. It all began last July when a preliminary report was released by the committee. The body apparently felt that as far as marijuana is concerned, young people face a greater danger from society than from the drug itself. The resolution asked that Ottawa remove marijuana from the Narcotics and Control Act and place it under the Food and Drug Act. The resolution was approved by the Federation's annual meeting on the grounds that present research neither proves nor disproves any harmful effects on marijuana. The report said in part, the alienation of youth from the lawmaking and law-enforcing bodies of the country presents a severe threat to the future development of the nation. The research since has come up with some surprising figures. In a survey of more than 2,200 Canadian students, it was found that 10% replied they had used drugs, 8% listing marijuana, 4% listing barbiturate, and 2% LSD. But most shocking is that only 4% of the students said that fear of harsh legal penalties deterred them from trying MJ. The chairman of the Home and School's Family Life Committee, Mrs. Helen Pechorsky, points out that if an 18-year-old, say, is convicted on a marijuana charge, 3 things can happen to him. He'll never be able to be bonded, he'll never be able to enter a graduate school, and he'll never be able to travel outside the country. The committee felt that in view of this, the stigma of a marijuana conviction should be considerably reduced until such time as some official organization, such as the Health and Welfare Department, comes up with more concrete facts on the causes and effects of drug usage, particularly marijuana and hashish. The committee's final report, released this week, went one step further. It recommended that youngsters be given the facts about drugs as early as grade 5. Mrs. Kaczorski explains the report's recommendations.
We recommend that objective information on drugs be given in all schools starting at age 8 to 9. The students would prefer a speaker, in which case he would be either someone who has used drugs or a physician, with a discussion period to follow. And we recommend, and I think this is an important factor, libraries in elementary and high school have booklets on drugs and drug abuse available to teens and their parents, as it has been found that teens prefer booklets they can keep to books that have to be signed out and returned. Also, we would like to have the educational programs available to parents before being presented to the students. This is an important factor in establishing communication between students and parents. Also, all information used in drug education must be checked for validity because the teens are very knowledgeable.
Mrs. Kaczorski explains the key qualifications for a drug educator.
the key factor in a drug educator, this would include your teacher as well, is his ability to build effective relationships with the students. Honesty is far and foremost the most important factor. And we feel if we can reach them with this unbiased information from various sources, from people who relate well to the children, who understand their feelings, and also to incorporate it into the total family life picture. You can't just isolate the drug question by itself. It has to be an understanding of family things.
And so an organization that is generally associated with Mom and apple pie moves forward and does something concrete to solve the problems associated with drugs in teenagers. In Toronto, John McKay.
Drugs are a way of life for those who push or use them. It is an unsettled way of life, not only in terms of illegitimacy of trafficking or possessing drugs, but also in the relationships of the pusher with his family and friends.
A pusher is like, never really stays in dope.
Mm-hmm.
He'll say make his money in a week, and then he'll get off, and then he'll come back again. You know, it always varies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's never really, like myself, I wouldn't call myself a pusher. People call it that, but like, if I wouldn't be doing it, somebody else would be, right? But I don't, in other words, I wouldn't put a pusher down, because it's just like bootlegging. They put bootleggers down too, of course, but like, I don't know, a lot of my friends know it, that I am pushing. My family don't really know, but what they don't know won't hurt them.
Mm-hmm. Do your friends look down on you for this?
No.
It doesn't affect the way that they treat
doesn't
you or
at
think
all,
of
no.
you?
In fact, a lot of them, not really look up, but like, I've met, since I've been doing it, like, I've met a lot more people than I used to know, and we get along just great. I'm talking about, like, in other words, a person that does drugs. As far as, in other words, a straight person, I don't really care what they think.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, nobody really puts me down, in other words. In fact, I think, like I stated before, you asked me about how many pushers are in Moncton really. Well, I said a few, but, like, it always varies. Like, there's one week there'd be 20 or 10, 15, whatever, so and so, but, like, there's always at least 5 fellas, you know, in other words, pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody seems to get along great, you know, like, it's never the same pusher.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, you know, one gets in, the other gets out, and then the other guy comes back the next week and the following week and so forth.
Has it made an emotional change in your life, do you think?
In what sense?
Selling drugs to other people.
Well, like,
You don't ever feel guilty about it, huh?
no, I don't. Never. Really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any sense in it, because they're satisfied and I'm satisfied. Before it wasn't a thing like for money. Like, I used to love turning people on, because, like, you see a new world in dope. It's nothing like booze or nothing like that. It's really a new life. It's great.
Now, what did you mean when you said before you can see through people now, that this is the way I gather that you mean drugs have been favorable for you?
Right, exactly.
They're giving you an insight into people, you mean?
Right, yeah.
What type of an insight?
Well, you can see people for what they really are, and a lot of people really think they're something else. You know, I don't know how to really put it, like, in other words, I don't get along with a straight person at all now.
Mm-hmm.
If they call it that. You know, now there's a person that don't do drugs at all. Like, you can't talk to them because they just don't make sense.
Chronic users, Psychiatrist Dr. Crandall says, rarely will do something to change their situations. He adds, drugs are here to stay. Prevention rather than treatment is his prime concern.
What, if anything, is going to be done about it? Do we just stir up the public and leave them with feelings of anxiety themselves as to whether their sons and daughters are taking drugs? Or do we really try and do something constructive? Now, the reason I say this is there's no evidence in the literature yet that there's any way of making a person stop taking drugs if he or she does not want to, and there's no real clear-cut evidence that there's any way of getting to your population of potential drug users, such as at the school level, and preventing the use of drugs completely. I think drugs are here to stay. I don't think we are ever going to eradicate it any more than alcohol was ever eradicated when it was considered a dangerous drug and shouldn't be used. Now, how are you going to get education directed properly in this area towards your community? I don't see any other way than through a committee or a board or whatever you wish to call it, in which you have professional and lay representation, representing the Department of Education, where the schools are obviously involved, the Department of Health, so it will include public health nurses, the Department of Mental Health, the District Medical Health Officer, your law enforcement agencies, complete back up by the provincial legislature and by the civic legislators in our community, so that such a group could start to look at this problem in a professional way and say, here, this is what we recommend or what we should try. And then we can look at it from the standpoint of prevention, through education, early diagnosis, then treat both the potential or the drug user who can hopefully be helped, as well as those who are seriously addicted, and also look at it from the standpoint of rehabilitation. What do we do with these individuals who have been drawn to drugs, who have no specific interests, no goals? What do we do to rehabilitate them? And until this is done, I don't think we'll achieve anything. All we'll do is arouse anxiety in the community, but it'll be the same old problem, and nothing is accomplished in the end.
Are drugs where it's at? Many of the users with whom I spoke are disillusioned. They are thankful for the experience of a drug trip, but in a number of cases wish the doors that drugs opened had remained closed. The drug, they believe, has brought life, society, and their own individual existence into such sharp focus that they will never be able to return to their previous way of living. In the words of Lewis Carroll, he thought he saw an argument that proved he was a pope. He looked again and found it was a bar of mottled soap. A fact so dread, he faintly said, extinguishes all hope.
3 miles high, and when you touch down, you'll find that it's stranger than known. Signs in the street that say where you're going are somewhere